and welcome to this Tech Juice episode on the conventionalist's view on military equipment profiles with new technologies. I'm M. Marshall Mohan. During my school days, I was deeply impressed with my English teacher, the late Mr. Julius Paul Karigalan. He was very keen that we fell in love with Shakespeare. As a young boy, I was trained to play the role of Julius Caesar for the school day. Cassius Clay, a lean and famished-looking guy, was the first courtier to drive a knife into Caesar when the court decides to do so for the good of Rome. Julius Caesar had earlier said the following to Mark Antony, probably his only true friend. Yon Cassius has a lean and hungry look. He thinks too much. Such men are dangerous. At the end of this series of Tech Juice presentations, I do not want some established players in the military equipment business and planners of regiments raised from them to feel this way about me. While I do think a lot, I'm not thin, I sleep well, and I'm not dangerous. The future battlefield is difficult to predict, particularly at this time of rapid technological change. It is, however, dangerous not to try and prepare for an uncertain future if we are serious about winning future conflicts. From now on, whatever I say is my personal views on what the future equipment profiles of the armed forces should be. I am fully aware that this is a very controversial topic. Industry and war have always gone hand in hand. Pre-industrial revolution, we fought with rifles and ammunition that were handmade and bespoke to that rifle. Then came the Industrial Revolution with engineering drawings, assembly line manufacturing that ensured that parts were interchangeable, or ICY as we call it, and ammunition that was not bespoke. Pre-industrial revolution, soldiers fought till they exhausted their bullets, and then it was hand-to-hand combat, in which the one with the best bayonet skills survived. Post-industrial revolution and the creation of op-logistics as part of the art of war, there was enough ammunition to fight, and for as long as you wanted to fight. It was the range and accuracy of the gun that decided things eventually. However, the bayonet stayed on as part of the rifle for nearly 150 years of the Industrial Revolution. Some of my army friends tell me that the bayonet is so sacred that it is still part of some guns. I don't think new generation of military leaders can afford such inflexibility when it comes to the technology of warfare. Any nation could soon cease to be a viable entity and the military being irrelevant in national affairs if we have such inflexibility. Equipping of armed forces is a very divisive topic. Big corporations have made long-term investments in production facilities of aircraft, ships, tanks, and other capital-intensive assets. They assiduously build an aura around their products through films, social media, military tacticians, books, and events. These cloud the reality like any marketing campaign, and invariably the personnel in the armed forces too end up becoming unwitting promoters of these wares. In my assessment, I have seen three types of military thinkers: the conventionalist, the technophile, and the shadow boxer. Let me explain. The conventionalist is the one batting for the kinetic inventory like fifth generation fighters, nuclear submarines, aircraft carriers, high-tech tanks, guided artillery, long-range SAMs, cruise missiles, and so on. Nearly 95% of career military officers belong to this category as they have grown up and enjoyed the perks of military service because of these systems. The conventionalist believes in building kinetic capabilities. Most of our armed forces are shaped by this thinking. This thinking also originates in the previous industrial revolution. Post-World Wars, the power of industry and quantity were the mantras to building a strong military. Numbers mattered for tanks, artillery, submarines, aircraft carriers, fighter aircraft, attack helicopters, mechanized or conventional infantry, and surface-to-air systems. Big defense industries and the military are in a tight embrace, and we have this relentless buildup of inventory volumes, assuming that future wars would be the same as the previous world wars, but with better technologies. The conventionalist also places a lot of importance on surface-to-air missile systems. I've depicted a few very well-known air defense systems in the graphic behind me. We have seen Israel's Iron Dome system in action recently. The THAAD S-400 and the MR-SAM, Israeli Barak 8, are all potent systems. The missiles themselves have largely remained similar to the earlier versions. However, the radar systems have become dramatically improved and dramatically lethal. In combination with seekers, these radar systems can provide targeting class detection at hundreds of kilometers and provide effective defense of a large part of the airspace. However, effective AD is always a challenge when you have thousands of kilometers of border, and it is always possible to overestimate their capabilities. One result of this overestimation is the hypersonic missile, which was seen as the fast car that cannot be shot down due to its speed. The US military has gone whole hog in investing in space-based IR sensors that can detect the unique signatures of the chemical reactions on the surface of these vehicles for a counterattack. Vulnerability of capital assets is a major issue. Ukrainians have shown us that inexpensive small drones with explosives strapped on them are adequate to sort out the formidable S-300, S-400 batteries, with at least 3 confirmed kills. The static nature of these systems appears to be their main vulnerability. Similar chaos caused to the Black Sea fleet by the Ukrainians is also very well known. Speed, agility, and camouflage of any high-value capital-intensive asset is critical in the modern battle space. Induction of UASs has also become a byword for military modernization. The conventionalist is not averse to these drones as long as there's no major change to the doctrines of warfare, which have cemented major capital equipment to the armed forces across the world. The graphic behind me depicts 2 systems, kinetic and electronic suppression of air defense. The jamming pod is on a slow-speed UAV, and the Herop, an Israeli product with a range of 1,000 kilometers, can home in on and attack a transmitter. Openly documented action of airborne satellite-controlled drones was probably first seen in the CIA attacks in Afghanistan. The ungainly Predator drone became deadly with Hellfire missiles. The Air Force just maintained and handed over these drones in the air to the CIA operatives sitting on the US mainland for intelligence-driven missions with a very, very short sensor to shoot a cycle. Now we know that slow drones have poor survivability in contested zones, as was seen in the Red Sea, where the Houthis have been taking them down easily. We are once again learning that agility and speed matter in a contested battle space to survive. Standoff weapons and cruise missiles are acceptable in the mind of the conventionalist. Stealth is a critical technology that the conventionalist wants on aircraft, ships, missiles, tanks in order to evade radar. Conventional weapons, though, still are very, very important part of the weapon mix, however advanced the aircraft may be. Glide bombs as a standoff weapon has also seen great traction. Net-centric warfare has become accepted parlance for the conventionalist as part of modernization. Terrestrial and space-based networks have been established, radars and GW systems have been integrated, operational practice has been built into the network, and the new iPad generation is absolutely comfortable with this. Cybersecurity, however, now becomes a prime weakness, and conventional commanders tend to believe that orders and discipline is the key to cybersecurity. The attackers can be innovative and keep us guessing. Many of them are teenagers. All advances that have been achieved presume a reliable communication and networking architecture. The cat and mouse game of radio frequency hopping, spread spectrum communication, jam resistant GPS, low probability of intercept transmissions, and many more physical electronic warfare methods are now well known and best practices, and that can assure a reliable link. An armed force that is a stranger to these practices has no chance of winning any future war. In short, a conventionalist is comfortable with a time-tested doctrine. He believes that performance of a strategy and equipment mix in the past wars is a good indicator for the performance in future wars too. He is essentially a status quoist with strong resistance to change of priorities as technologies emerge and impact the nature of warfare. In the next part, we will examine the technophile who wants to change everything. I hope you watch this space. Thanks for watching and see you in the next episode.